Yo, static on the line, let the frequency clear. Michael Vassalero, yeah, the host is here. From the barracks to the canvas, the pen to the code. We're walking off the map on an unpaved road. It's the unfiltered uniform, strapping tight with the sect and the structure, bringing shadows to light. From military culture to the AI schemes, politics, poems, and the veteran dreams. Break the locks, find the freedom, keep the soul intact. The truth is heavy, man, and that's a matter of fact. Welcome to the unfiltered uniform. Let's get into it.
So this oath, it's pretty intense. It is the protocol for service, but it's rigid, needs an update. Welcome to the Unfiltered Uniform, Episode 2, The Art of Survival.
Welcome back to the Unfiltered Uniform, Episode 2, The Art of Survival. Today, I'm going to be talking about art. Not so much history of art and how to do art, but more along the lines of art therapy, how art has been beneficial in my life. So today we're going to talk about something that usually makes hard-charging veterans roll their eyes, and that is art. And look, I get it. When you're worried about paying rent, dealing with TBIs, PTSD, picking up a paintbrush sounds like a waste of time. It sounds soft, but I'm here to tell you that skeptical voice in your head is wrong. Today, we're not talking about art as a hobby. We aren't talking about painting fruit bowls and matching a painting to a sofa. I do have the technical skills to make pretty art and generic streamlined stuff that sells very easily, and all the galleries will give you opportunities, but I don't do that, and I won't do that. Because after what I've been through, after what you guys have been through, I can't waste time on decorations. I am moved by a deeper purpose. I am here to make art that disrupts, art that speaks loudly, and an art that forces conversation. In this episode, I'll be talking about everything from acrylics, canvas art, multimedia art, ceramics, using artificial intelligence that visualizes trauma for you. Like it can create a visual from a past trauma or experience, and talking about the vibration of words, the power that words have, and how to take a story and use that to develop another way to gain money, funds, purchases that you can use to fill the gaps where disability just doesn't provide enough. We're going to talk about engineering a bridge over the gap that trauma has left in our brains, and how art can be used as a technical tool to fix moral injury when talk therapy doesn't work or it fails. So let's get into it. First, we're going to start with our sound bowl. Last time I had a bigger one. This one's a much smaller one. So here we go. I hope you guys did that along with me, but I do this because it helps bring down my heart rate, my anxiety, and allows me to ground myself and collect my thoughts a little bit more as I go. The mediums, tools of the trade: writing, poetry, and short stories. The benefit: clarification and advocacy. Writing explains the unexplainable. It allows a veteran to hand a poem to a civilian and say, I can't tell you what I felt like, but read this. It is the ultimate advocacy tool. Canvas and acrylic. Benefit: emotion externalization. Acrylics dry fast and allow for layering. You can paint over mistakes. It teaches that messy is okay and mistakes are fixable. A crucial lesson for PTSD recovery. I absolutely practice and love that perspective of acrylic art because it's happened to me plenty of times where disability challenges play a part in quality of art. So what I like when it comes to acrylic art and my perspective is that it's not something like when I went to college for graphic design, I ultimately failed, if that's what you would call it, in transitioning to a mainstream, streamlined, big ad agency or graphic design positions because in school I was already experiencing the symptoms where I have to meet a certain amount of credits and classes per month to get the GI Bill. But the symptoms were so overwhelming, the amount of information I had to absorb and make sense of and remember to utilize in projects and test was so much that it was unbearable for me. And I had to step away from that. And I realized at that point that talking with teachers that going into an ad agency wouldn't work for me because it is very quick turnaround and very high demand, high stress. So doing art, some of these art pieces, I don't have answers because I don't just have, maybe I should have, but I don't, or I should utilize the stopwatch on my phone, but it would just be another layer of things that I would have to remember. But when I'm doing these arts, I don't have a specific answer when people ask, how long did it take you to do that? I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because I do some of it and then I walk away. I do some of it and then I walk away. And it could literally take me from beginning to end a half a year, 3 months, 6 months to finalize and complete a painting from start. Some of this has to do with the disability, right? I have herniated discs, bulge, and cyst on my spine from my neck all the way down. I could show you the whole sheet, multiple opinions, multiple MRIs to confirm. And when I'm doing art, there is no comfortable way that I have found for me to do art. Sitting, laying, standing, easel on the floor, any of it and all of it within like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I have to stretch. I have to get up. I have to stretch my back. I have to extend my arms. I have to walk around because the pain will become excruciating, stabbing, numbing, all these things. So, with that being said, art, sometimes when I'm doing the lines, depending on how I'm feeling, sometimes some of those lines could be shaky. Some of them could be half finished, but that's okay because I don't have to work under the pressure that one, it has to be perfect, and two, it has to be done at a certain time. So even if you are stuck working or other obligations, children, whatever it may be, it's okay to walk away from it and come back and go right over the top of it, to go back and to make an imperfection better, edited. Clay and ceramics, that's another one. I love that one. I created a few things in ceramics, getting your hands in there, all of it. The benefit is grounding. You have to get your hands dirty. It forces you to be in the now mindfulness because if you lose focus, the pot collapses, the plate gets ruined on the wheel. And again, with clay, if you properly store it like in a bag or mist some water, again, I like it because from beginning to end, you don't have to immediately complete it. You can step away from it, you can add to it, you can change it. It's not, at least I didn't approach. I know how some people get frustrated working on a bowl or a pot for a certain amount of time and then it ruins. But that happened to me too in the learning process. And um, you just put it in a ball and then try again until you learn that method, that strategy. Beads and jewelry. That was another one I did. I made a ring for my daughter and a necklace, and working with the manipulating that is part of the fine motor focus. It requires intense concentration and dexterity. It quiets the noise in the head by forcing the brain to focus on the tiny hole where the bead is. The same with the jewelry, metals is, yeah, just art all around, all the forms of art. That it's the pressure, because in the military and the infantry too, is we're always striving for the best perfection, like to compete for the EIB and to do good on your testing, your physical fitness, your shooting, to gain that expert badge or the best. That's a lot of pressure. And with any form of art, you don't have that pressure on your shoulders. And also, it's not like pushing you to face and repeat negative things in your life, whereas other forms of therapy want you to repeat and say out loud to the people around you, they're projecting their trauma, you're projecting your trauma, they're reliving it, you're reliving it. And when you leave feeling worse. You leave with guilt, with other problems. And with art, it didn't do that. Like, even if you were motivated in the art, at least for me, motivated in the art to touch on experiences or ideas that have to do with military experience or trauma, you're not saying it out loud, and you're not holding it in and trying to be careful what you're doing or you're not doing. It can be hard. So the challenge, is it just adult kindergarten, right? That's a great title, because talking with art therapists. Now, to be clear, I am not an art therapist. I am not some teacher or expert in art. I'm not famous. I'm not in any high class galleries. I'm just the average person trying my best. And I was artistic growing up, and having time on my hands instead of sitting around, moping around, and wasting time in my life, I'm actually using art as a form of therapy, as a form of coping mechanism. And it gives you a little bit of hope and purpose to be able to break the barrier of isolation, to build communication skills, and to potentially sell something to cover the cost of things in your life that disability doesn't do for you, right? It's not a way of getting rich or being able to live a higher quality life. It's really not. It can be a stepping stool. It can be a baseline to keep you from becoming homeless. But when you are given that gift, given the benefits that you earn when you start going deeper into physical, visible disabilities, and then internal, invisible injuries, that there's many wars that veterans face. And a lot of these wars are not external, meaning outside of our country and outside of ourselves. There is a whole nother aspect of war and trauma and exposure and damage that is done from internal wars. Internally, meaning within the United States, within our government, within our families, within our lifestyle. That is a disruption, exposure, a damage that is being done and leaves you with invisible wounds. And so, to get back to what I was saying, sometimes I go off, is I have experienced that um in art therapy program here in Palm Beach with the Armory Art Center, working with the VA, is I've been told, I'm not an expert. And again, a lot of this stuff is not medical advice. These are just my experiences. Is funding can be limited and taken because of the perception that art is like an adult kindergarten, like you're just playing with crafts. And let's be real, if painting a watercolor sunset could fix complex PTSD, TBI, chronic pain, then the VA would just prescribe Bob Ross videos and call it a day. It would be a hell of a lot cheaper than therapy, right? The skeptical view is valid. Is art just a pacifier? If you are gluing macaroni to a plate just to kill time, yes, it's a distraction. It's numbing. But here's where I challenge your premise that it's only a distraction. A distraction is passive, like doom scrolling watching TV. Art is active. You aren't just looking away from the pain. You are forcing your brain to switch gears from the amygdala, fight or flight, survival, to the prefrontal cortex, planning, creation. Biologically, you cannot be in a full blown panic state and have a flow state at the same time. It's not fixing the broken engine, it's learning how to drive the car despite the check engine light is being on. Now we're going to go into the machinery under the hood, why tech and AI change the equation. This is where we leave the finger painting behind. The barrier to entry for traditional art is high. If you have tremors, nerve damage, or just you really suck at drawing, on a blank canvas is just another source of anxiety. AI, as a modern tech tool, generative AI as a force multiplier, is typing a prompt into Midjourney or Copilot or Gemini actually art? Maybe not in the classical sense, but for a veteran, it removes the physical barrier, the mechanism. A vet can take a reoccurring nightmare, a chaotic memory, use AI to externalize it. They can say, you veterans can say, show me a storm that looks like X blank blank, and then it'll illustrate, if you put enough detail, a visual representation of what it is that you've been dealing with. So, for an example, as I did last episode, I'm going to share one of my poems. So, with AI and the title of art, what I love about AI is that you can take one thing, one experience, one memory, and mold it into multiple mediums of art, into a poster, and then into a short story, and then into a poem, and then into a haiku. And it could all be under that one experience. And each one of those is an opportunity to make extra money, to break isolation, to start a conversation. And to me, that's amazing. That's very valuable. So, one of the poems that describe a reoccurring chaotic memory slash nightmare that I constantly have to deal with, and I hate it, is two of them, right? I did two poems last time. This one I'll do two again. Echoes of Dawn. And again, you guys can go to my link tree, my website, and purchase a digital copy or a physical copy. Email me, my wife, of the poem book. I have been debating, my wife, of course, we have to financially survive, and we don't have a vehicle right now. We have kids, and everyone's struggling in the United States. We all have our issues financially. So she would love to take these books and put them in to be published under a big publisher. But I just haven't done it because I've learned, and I may be wrong, I don't know, but that when you sell it or sell the rights to something that you've created, a lot of times they want to change the titles, maybe change some of the writing, maybe change some of the graphics, the cover of the book. And although that may work and be good for a source of alternate income, ultimately, I don't want to change what I've created, what I struggled to create using tools like AI and just the creative instinct to manipulate and mold these poems and these art pieces into what they've become. And I would just hate to see them or have them changed out of the motivation of greed and income. I would much rather make something that I've created available to sell rather than something that's been changed and influenced by an outside source that doesn't really understand where I'm coming from and what I am trying to say or present. So, Echoes of Dawn. Here's a poem capturing those intense moments of incoming rocket attacks on our forward operating base, Gary Owen, during my deployment to Iraq with 1st Cav, 4th Brigade Combat Team from 2008 to 2009. In the stillness of the early dawn, laying on my cot, the night nearly gone, surrounded by brothers, young and brave, in a tent, our sanctuary, our cave. Darkness cloaked us, silence reigned, until the peace was violently strained. A distant field, a sudden flash, an explosion's roar, a thunderous crash. A whistle pierced the morning air, growing louder, closer, a horroring blare. Explosions echoed, a deadly symphony. Rockets struck, shattering tranquility. Concrete walls, 20 feet tall, crumbling down, a fearsome fall. Each blast, a punch to the chest. In the chaos, we did our best. Fear ran through our veins, thoughts in a race, yet dark humor masked each terrified face. Multiple times, the nightmare replayed, wishing, waiting, the day we'd be saved. Throughout the year, we held our ground, in the hope that peace would soon be found, dreaming of the day to pack and leave, to find solace, to finally breathe. And then I added a few pictures of that experience, and then with AI, I created this visual illustration of how I felt, because we may have videos or photos of during or after the chaos. I couldn't visually explain to people or the doctor that captured that moment, to visualize it, not what they visualized, but what I visualized in my own experience. So the doctor, how did you feel? And can you explain that moment? And then they have to take your words, your experience, and visualize something like this in their own mind. But why not take that? And yeah, this may not be me, and I may have not drawn it by hand, but if you look at the layout, the expression, that is precisely how I felt in that moment. When you're woken by distant explosions and you hear the whistle of the rocket flying in, and in that split second, because you're trained and you have everyone else around you, kind of like a herd mentality, running towards the bunkers. But there's that split second when you're laying in your cot and you have to make sense of everything, and you're terrified because that rocket flying in may just hit you. And it's a crazy experience to internalize. So that's how AI can be very beneficial, right? So is a vet, oh yeah, so we can take the chaotic memory and externalize it, right? It allows them to get the image out of their head and onto the screen instantly. It turns subjective horror into an objective image they can look at, critique, and delete. That is power within themselves. The force multiplier is that there was no camera. The missing camera, the missing footage of some of the traumatic events. The problem, most traumatic events are profound moments in combat or in life that weren't filmed. You have a memory of a specific sunset or dust after an explosion from an IED, but no photo exists. You can't show your wife why you're haunted. There is no photo to show the therapist or your wife. This is what it looked like. And to be able to feed that information into AI and illustrate very closely, and you can do many prompts, as I have learned. It may give you, depending on how detailed you want, right? So you can spend your time and really put a lot of detail into it and then see what it pushes out, or just briefly, you can even speak, type that experience in, and then when it gives you something, you can put in additional prompts to change maybe the expression, change the scene, the colors, whatever it may be. AI allows you to input a memory, right? So a red flare smoke, the feeling of isolation, it can generate a photorealistic or a stylized image of the exact moment. You type the prompt, you refine it, suddenly the image in your head is on the screen. It validates the memory, your reality. it proves it happened. It allows you to show someone, this is what I see when I close my eyes. It turns a ghost in your head into a file on a computer, bridging the empathy gap. When you try to explain a feeling, people just hear words. When you show them an AI image that captures the chaotic energy or the darkness of a moment, they feel it. It forces the viewer to see the world through your eyes instantly. The AI translator. A lot of people think AI is cheating at art, but for veterans who have memories stuck in their head and they don't have the technical skill to paint, this is how AI acts as a tool. It finally gets the image out. Watch and see what it's like to type in a description of a bad day in Iraq and see it appear on the screen for you. You don't need 10 years of art school to get the image out. AI removes that barrier between feeling and seeing, right? So a lot of these paintings that you see around me and behind me started out with a conversation with AI, an experience, a thought, an opinion, a solution. All these things can be ultimately fed into AI and turned into many different things. It's like having a hammer and saying this hammer can build a house, it can fix a dent, it can save your life, it can do all these things. And I feel like we're just now learning how deep or how beneficial and how you can use AI ultimately as a tool to be productive. So I have written down that virtual reality is currently being used to rewrite the combat loop. Instead of painting a picture, vets use virtual reality to build environments they can create a safe room where physics and lighting are entirely under their control. It creates a sensory override. You aren't just distracted. You are neurologically transported. The productivity dopamine hit. As I mentioned, productivity is a key. Traditional therapy often feels like digging a hole and then filling it back up. Creating digital art, 3D models, or AI narratives result in a product. It taps into the same drive that makes a soldier effective. Task, execution, result. It provides a dopamine hit that talking about feelings rarely does. The verdict. Art isn't the cure. The machinery is still broken. But if traditional therapy is a mechanic trying to fix the engine while the car is moving, specifically, tech assisted art is the nitric oxide that lets you outrun the breakdown for a while. It's not about making something pretty, it's about proving to yourself that you can still make something in a world that has taught you how to break things. Now, we're going to talk about the financial gap. Art isn't just therapy, it's a potential income stream when disability isn't enough. For me, I've struggled with this, right? I have the typical struggling artist story. And that is that I've been motivated to do art as a form of therapy, but I haven't made income. I probably only sold like a couple $100 worth of art. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers and I'm successful in selling art because that's not my main objective. Will it help? Of course. Like as you'll see, we'll describe and talk about is that it's a way to give back. It's a way to potentially gain income or money that you need to take care of things that you cannot afford. So it's a low cost, high yield. You don't need a $500 studio. You can self publish. You can use old canvases, wood, cardboard, pretty much anything to turn into art. Thankfully, my wife and the VA art therapy program did provide some art tools and supply that gave me the capability to do art on canvas and utilize apps and things like that as tools to not have to use the bare minimum to create art so that it does have quality to it. So it has a finish on it and it's made of quality products. The manifestation, right? Strategy. This is a specific method painting the need. I'm not sure if this has existed before, if it's something new that I created because I don't want to make claims. I know how people are, but I have, without someone telling me that I'm dealing with a situation and I don't want to take what's provided. I don't want to take what someone's telling me to do, right? I want to do it on my own. I want to figure it out on my own. I want to make my own choice because ultimately I care about my life and I want to try to fix what has been done and broken and try to extend my life or try to grasp and to grab back years of my life that I've lost because of trauma, exposures, and damage that has been done, right? So, one of these things would be dental, right? And this is where I get into my writings, philosophically opinionated rabbit hole. This is where I can get a little crazy. So, I'll just barely touch on it. And then, like, maybe in other episodes or when I talk to people in the future, we can get deeper into that. That's where I can intrigue you and I can bait you, and if successful and you want to further conversate about this topic, then I'm more than welcome to you guys reaching out to me, email me off my website. You can check out the links in the description and on my profile, and we can set up to do a interview where we can dive deeper into this topic. And the first one would be you have to offer forgiveness to heal and to move forward. But before that can happen, you have to face the reality of who is responsible. And as I mentioned in the last podcast, the first episode, pointing the finger at those who are responsible. So the reality is this. I feel like if you are a governmental military where you have access to funds, where you have it's almost like the all-seeing eye. You have the ultimate access to all information and all financial means. But the part that affects me that I write about is you beat it into my head as a young man, as a father figure, as a leader, that I am professional. I am what my country expects me to be, the best trained soldier in the world, that we're like high quality and we have the ultimate training against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? Well, if this is true, then I would expect that a military would utilize the structure of society that it serves and it protects, the free market capitalistic entity of the United States, is that there is businesses, private practices, technology, things that are available that are American based or started to provide the ultimate best, the best dental, the best medical testing, therapies, whatever it may be. So the fact that we can be in a military and we can be tasked with the most strenuous task and objectives, and then when we start experiencing pain and we ask for help, you give us the lowest quality. And to me, that's not right. So dental, we know that amalgam fillings are bad for you, and the medications and the nerve connection from your teeth to your brain to the rest of your body, your gut, and there's holistic dentistry, biological dentistry, and I'm just now learning about this. But a lot of this isn't new. If you look it up, it was around when I served. So the fact that not only did you fail to inform me about the proper way to have dental hygiene, like knowing that fluoride toothpaste, typical mouthwash, these things are very damaging to your mouth microbiome, your like saliva and the bacteria in your mouth, kind of like antibiotics. If you're in a death situation, maybe it could save you, but as a maintenance, as a chronic thing, wiping out all the bugs, both good and bad, is bad for you. And that's what mouthwash does, is it wipes out both good and bad and exposes you to where you have an extreme amount of absorption into your body through your mouth, right? That's why they say put it under your tongue to get it absorbed. And in the cheap mouthwash, there's alcohol, there's color dyes, there's things in there that are bad for you, right? So we can go down that whole road, right? So I'm not an expert. This isn't medical advice. I'm just sharing you what I've learned, and I can be angry, but ultimately you have to find forgiveness, not to excuse what has been done, but to give yourself a window and time to not dwell on the anger of what's been done wrong, but to use the energy to find the solution, right? To fix it. And I have done that, right? And I'm hoping that you respect that, that this information and stuff I've been doing helps you, and or you support what I've been doing and you respect and appreciate the amount of effort that I've put into this, right? So this is called the dental gift. I made it before Christmas with the intention to sell it around Christmas because, it's a time of giving gifts. But you can give a gift on birthdays, holidays, whenever, right? But it just happened to be around that time. That's where the motivation came from. So I made a painting, and that's where it started. Was everything that I just talked about even deeper. I fed into AI, and then I asked AI, can you illustrate this into a abstract painting design? And then I put little details of things that I may also want to see. Now, the finished hand painting is always going to be completely different than the AI image, right? Because I'm not just copy paste tracing. I like to personalize it, but I also like to maybe skip the things that are extremely hard to imitate or to trace and focus more on what I am capable of and or adding things that I like. So there's a lot of, do this, don't do that, change this, change that, add this, delete that along the process. This is the finished painting, but this is just a image that I had taken of it. And so if you guys want, the painting itself is available. My target audience for this painting would be a dentist, a dental office, or someone who just enjoys the art, right? If the people that are interested can't afford the painting, the original only one painting, I also took it and digitalized it into poster merch and t-shirt design, things like that on my website on Printify. So you can visit right there if you want. You can go ahead and scan that, pause that, scan it, and you can make a digital purchase merch of the painting, which is obviously a lot cheaper than the original. The original painting, I want to sell it for around, depending on negotiation of price, somewhere's around 1,500 to $2,000. It's a 24-inch by 30-inch hand painted acrylic, and I provide a outline, a poem, description, everything to go with the painting. If you buy the one individual, one of a kind painting, and also a printout of the AI original version. So you'll get this, the painting, and the original AI concept that led into the physical painting, right? So first I'll show you the actual painting. It's been sealed. You can see the paint strokes. It's abstract. It has the, get it in there, the teeth, toothpaste. And as you can see in size perspective, this is quite big in size. And you can see I did a background first, and then I drew out the outlines, and I used a paint marker. I used acrylic paintbrush paint and a lot of different layers. And it is also signed at the bottom right here. I don't have a big studio. This is just my desk area. So it was hard to really step back and show you the full thing. Okay, so the statement that goes with the painting is dental gift. I explore the intersection of organic wellness and the mechanical reality of modern healthcare. This piece dissects the world of biological dentistry, a functional approach that views oral health as inseparable from the whole body through a pop art lens. I utilize clinical blues and diagrammatic lines to map out a procedure that is both a medical necessity and a luxury commodity. The composition creates a narrative flow from the fresh, fluoride-free, holistic ideas to the stark reality of the dollar signs that punctuate the canvas. The figure in the chair represents vulnerable surrender, waiting for restoration. The inclusion of the gift box suggests that health is indeed a present, but the floating currency reminds the viewer that access to natural, non toxic care often comes with a high barrier to entry. This work is born of necessity. As a veteran and artist seeking to restore my own health through functional medicine, I am currently facing urgent dental need that the standard system does not adequately address. This painting is not just a representation of the procedure, it is the means to acquire it. The dental gift is a literal transaction, art created to fund the preservation of the artist. It challenges the viewer to consider the value we place on our own biology and the price we pay to keep it pure. The poem that goes with that. The Root and the Render is the title of this poem. Open wide the wallet and the jaw for the biological natural law. No fluoride paste, just the peppermint sting and the heavy cost that the healers bring. A chair of blue, a mechanical arm to drill the decay and silence the alarm. We trade toxic for the pure and the clean, while dollar signs float in the spaces between. Is it a gift, this pain in the gum? The feel the nerve where the mouth had gone numb? I'd paint the cure I cannot afford, a canvas prayer to the medical board. Squeeze the tube, let the colors run free, buying back the smile that belongs to me. So, yes, that's what I have done and created out of using AI and utilizing this method towards the hope of doing that. And here I will share with you is a most recent, as you can see, the date, and this is the cost. I have a gap. I have a tooth that did not get capped, and the amalgam filling needs to be removed. And then there's a gap where food gets trapped, and if I'm not constantly cleaning it out and keeping it clean, it does become inflamed and in pain. So this is something that I hope and I pray can get the opportunity to cover the cost of that. Maybe the hope, right? That is the hope, the prayer, the manifestation that, hey, maybe I can take care of this on my own. Maybe I can do it the way I want to do it for myself. And that all has to do with art, writing, using AI as a tool. And that's why I wanted to share that one. So, art as a currency. Veterans often feel guilty taking help. We feel like we take on a debt that we can't pay. That's been me several times. There's been times where I've had to ask people for help, both financially, transportation, moving. That's where they say it takes a village, right? You need that help. Like, there's no way with my back injuries I can do this on my own. There's no way that I can do this on my own, right? Enormous obstacles where you may need to ask for help. And art can help you not feel so much guilt and often can motivate you to take that help because then you can offer a gift that has been sometimes more valuable than just paying someone back because it's the thought, it's the effort, it's the skill and the time that you put into it rather than just giving the money back. And so art allows you to pay back when you have no cash. Here's a scenario: a neighbor fixes your fence because your back is out. You can't pay them $200, but you can give them a personalized painting or a hand turned ceramic bowl. It restores your dignity and balances the scales of the relationship. So there's another method why art, the creation of art, can be very productive and useful in your life. Breaking isolation and the dopamine of pride. Influencing culture. Veterans often feel like outsiders in a civilian culture. By creating art, you stop being an outsider and start being a contributor. You aren't just consuming culture, you are making it. You are forcing the culture to look at your reality. The feedback loop. Depression tells you you are worthless and no one cares. When you post a poem or hang a painting and a stranger says, "Wow, I feel that," it breaks the isolation loop. It provides a hit of positive dopamine, not a cheap kind where scrolling on social media, but the earned kind from creating value. That moment of sale or compliment rebuilds the self worth that disability often erodes. I want to answer the big question I get asked by: who are afraid to step out of the shadows? They ask, if I start doing well, if I start laughing or painting or speaking, does that mean I'm not disabled anymore? And I'll tell you the exact moment that that fear died for me. I was sitting on the couch with my wife just watching TLC. We were watching this young woman, Balin, who has Tourette's syndrome. She was struggling, ticking constantly, but she was out there, learning to live on her own, going to speaking events, terrifying herself, but doing it in any way. Then we watched Jay and Pamela. They have osteogenesis imperfecta, brittle bone disease. They are in wheelchairs dealing with the breaks and chronic pain that most of us can't imagine, but they weren't hiding it. They were sharing their story on TikTok, on social media, on TLC, building a life and laughing. And that's when it hit me. Just because I isolate, just because I have PTSD or chronic pain, doesn't mean I have to stay in the dark. The best medicine I've had in years wasn't a pill from the VA. It was last month when I went to an open Christmas story event. I stood up, I shared, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't get pity. I got positive feedback. I got hugs, the most valuable healing thing in that moment, right? And I hate the word healing because it's not ridding symptoms, it's not melting away the pain from ever coming back, but it's those brief feel good moments, like when you take a prescription med, when you take and you become addicted, right? So it's the same thing, but you don't get all the negative side effects. What's the negative side effect of receiving a hug or giving a hug? I would like to hear that one. Why the creative brain works on trauma. Research confirms that trauma memories are often stored as fragments, sights, smells, sounds, rather than a linear story. So, yeah, that's a big one for me too. Right? When you become highly sensitive and damaged, your symptoms can be exacerbated and situations, your experience can be that much more traumatizing than someone who doesn't have immune problems or deficiencies. You know, if you have I think it's iron and iodine deficiency. I'm not a medical doctor, but you can get symptoms of anemia, uncontrollable shaking, cold. You just feel, but it's when you feel this cold, it's dramatic and it's extreme. And I've had that. And the same with celiac and gluten sensitivity. I'm not an expert, but experiencing these symptoms can make an event so dramatic. And when I was serving, I had some of these symptoms. And when you're young, you just brush it off as a weakness, right? And you internalize it and hold it in because you don't want to get picked on. You don't want to be further abused mentally and physically by complaining, by voicing your weakness, if that's what you want to call it. And that is cold. And again, cold can be a perspective, right? Because I found out that cold plunges and cold therapy because I use it sometimes. My sympathetic, empathetic nervous system goes out of whack very often. And one of the methods that I've tried and learned about was an ice pack straight on the back of my neck where my nerves are and to rebalance my nervous system. So some of it has to do with perspective, some of it has to do with deficiencies, some of it has to do with the intensity, the extremeness of the symptoms. But what am I getting at? Is some of these things are rooted in internal trauma, invisible wounds. And that is being out on mission, being extremely exhausted, hot weather during the day, and then the only way you can take a shower is to get in a cold shower and it being very uncomfortable, right? And being in that very uncomfortable state of mind and then facing a rocket attack can compile the dramatic extreme of that event, that memory. So there's been times where even hot and cold environments will trigger memories. There's been times where I was driving and it triggers symptoms and memories. My wife gets annoyed, but I can't sit in a silent room because I hate it. And the reason why is because when it's silent, the ringing in my ears is that much louder. And again, the ringing, the awareness of the ringing can trigger memories, symptoms of PTSD. And the biggest part of art and trying to overcome these things is not constantly living in it, constantly reminding, constantly thinking about it, constantly reliving it. To have brief moments of distraction or clarity is profound. And some of that comes with art, right? And yeah, it's deep. So the science, when you are triggered, the Broca's area speech center literally goes offline. You cannot talk your way out of it. The fix, engaging your hands by painting or in clay, activates the sensory cortex, allowing you to process the energy of the trauma without needing to find the words first. From chaos to order, mechanism, externalizing the chaos. When a memory is in your head, it's a looping nightmare. When it's on a canvas, it's a fixed object. You can look at it, change it, and walk away from it. It puts you back in control of the memory. The window. I want to talk to you guys, to the guys who are afraid to feel good. The guys who think that being disabled means you have to sit on a couch and feel like a failure to earn your check. That's a lie. The VA pays you for what you lost. They don't own what you have left. Art gave me permission to be proud again. I didn't cure my injuries. I still have bad days. I still have the pain, but now I have something else too. I have a mission. And think about it, your family. Maybe your dad doesn't understand why you snap at him. Maybe your son is scared of your silence. You can't always explain it in words, but you can paint it. You can write it out. When you create art, you are opening a window into your soul. You are letting them see the storm inside you, but from a safe distance. And that window, that's where the empathy comes in. That's where they finally look at you and say, oh, I get it now. This isn't just art. This is saving relationships and building relationships. So we're going to move into the physics of language, words as energy, moving from the visual to the vibrational. This is about spelling, as in casting a spell, creating a change in consciousness, stored potential. Words are not just symbols, they are energy. The basket effect. I scratch words directly into and onto the paint and the canvas. The reason why is involuntary reading. You cannot look at a word and not read it. By painting the word strength, you are forcing a specific vibration into the viewer's brain. Whole brain engagement. Combining text, left brain, with color, right brain, creates a more profound chemical reaction in the viewer. The science, semantics of vibration. Concept. Sound is a physical pressure. When you speak, you are physically touching the world with airwaves. The silent vibration, written words, are stored potential energy. they are silent until someone looks at them. The moment a viewer reads a word on your canvas, the word fires in the brain. You have successfully transferred a specific frequency from your mind to theirs. The cognitive trigger mechanisms. You can't look at a word and not read it. It's involuntary. The impact. If you paint the word hope or survive on a canvas, the viewer's brain must process that concept. You are forcing their brain to simulate that state. Neural linguistic programming. Positive words trigger biological relaxation, healing. Negative words trigger cortisol, stress. By choosing your words on the canvas, you are literally curating the chemical reaction in the viewer's body. Text on canvas. Don't just paint a picture of a flower. Scroll the word growth next to it. Why? It engages both sides of the brain, the left brain and the right brain. This whole brain engagement creates deeper, more memorable impact and a higher value art piece. The art that I admire isn't just pictures. It has words written right onto the canvas, like forgive, strength, energy. So for me, I could learn and spend all my time trying to perfect a realistic, streamlined, generic art because it's easier and it's financially safer. But I refuse because I'm not motivated by pretty art. I'm more motivated by truth. When you survive combat and trauma, you have a responsibility to not be superficial. My art is carrying the weight of my experiences. All right. So you are allowed to be talented and you're allowed to be productive. You are allowed to be proud. When you pick up that brush or that welding torch or the clay, you aren't proving that you're fine. You're proving that you are still a warrior. You're just fighting a different war now, a war against silence, right? Disability is for the injury, but it is not for the misery. So just because you have to deal with symptoms and every moment you have to fight to balance your sympathetic nervous system from fight or flight and chronic stress and chronic fatigue and chronic pain, that you can't put a smile on your face. And that's where doing destructive things like alcohol, drugs, things like that, is that it keeps you in this negative state of mind where you have to present yourself as constantly in pain or in anger. And that's the only way people can accept you as a veteran. But I'm here to challenge that. And I'm here to incorporate how profound art is in life and how it can be part of your existence, of your fight and your management. So we're going to do something fun. I'm going to take you on a journey where I use AI to conceptualize some of these experiences, thoughts, and ideas. Where how does art imitate life and life imitate art? Where everything around us is a form of art, and how we can use technology and data. Together with technology and data, we can build a visual, and through that visual, we can shine a light and visualize the invisible wounds, right? Because if we look at deaths among veterans, whether it be illness, cancer, suicide, those numbers are greater than veterans dying in a combat. So where's the real war at? And we all know there's informational, there's nutritional, there's psychological, all these wars going on, meaning there's actively a person waging war on control and manipulation of these things. But to be able to conceptualize that, test for that, gain data from that, and show how it impacts your life daily through a visual art form of art, right? Building the app, graphic design school, art. And if the apps were data structured based, then people would just be looking at numbers and be confused at what they're looking at and be overwhelmed and not want to understand and interact with that data. So having a visual art to conceptualize and build a visual of the things that you are dealing with is amazing. And the VA should be, and the military and society should be using this to its full potential, right? Because we love data. We got to follow the science, right? Well, why aren't you doing that then? Because if that's the case, then more people would qualify for disability, for higher disability. People would gain disability quicker. People would be able to implement changes in their life to increase their functionality. They would be able to fix their life financially, all these things. So, what am I getting at? How wearable devices, glucose monitor, Apple Watches, different devices collect data and can track your sympathetic nervous system, your HVR, your blood pressure, noise, pollution, all these data points, and you can log. So, like, if I get a PTSD moment, like someone shooting outside or banging in the apartment, and my heart gets pain and pressure in my chest, and I can't breathe, and I start going down this road, well, I can show that my nervous system, my heart rate, and document that moment to have evidence to show like this is what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. Now it's not just me saying it. It's not just me trying to recall it, trying to conceptualize the advocate for myself or for your veteran, how that impacts them, like what was going on, but to have a visual backing up the statement, backing up that description of that moment is profound. That is art. So that's another form of art, right? And I'm going to show you that how this works and how to utilize AI, not just in a art form as a visual, but also in a planning, in a conversation of understanding, and how it all intertwines underneath the umbrella of art. So I hope I don't bore you, but I hope it interests you, the feedback that I'm going to now show you. So now I want to show you guys a small section of a song that I created using the AI app Suno. Now, I've been using AI for over a year, almost 2 years, and I've built uh, a lot of threads, a lot of editing in the AI. So it really has a strong sense of my experience, my history, my perspective, my opinion. So it's not hard at this point with that much history for me to enter small prompts or even lengthy prompts, and it helped me structure songs. Also, uh, with that is building off of other forms of art. So because I've written poems and used AI to help write these poems, the next best thing is raps. Now, what's amazing about this is some people may say, well, that can hinder growth or stop people from wanting to learn. But in reality, my experience has been the complete opposite. And that is taking a situation and telling it to AI. So saying like, man, when I had ended up getting tinnitus, it was a horrible experience. And this is how it felt. This is how it happened. This is what it felt like. And this is what I'm dealing with today. And then it helped simplify that whole 3-hour story into a poem that hits key points. And doing that over and over again with different situations not only helps you, it has helped me communicate better, and also is through the repetition and consistency learning how to learning how to structure poems, how they're supposed to sound. So that's the same with the music. That's amazing. And it's the same with the art. And like for the music, it's the same thing. Like now that I hear it, first is envisioning it, right? So first I'm like looking at the poem, I'm looking at the art, I'm thinking about how I felt, how do I want that to be? And I'm not taking away from people that rap. I don't have an opinion on any of that. More power to you, right? If I want to use a calculator to get the same result, it is what it is. But I love the fact that I don't have to be stuck on how I sound. I don't have to be stuck on rhythm. I don't have to be stuck on these things that you need to record and to sound good, to create these projects. But I love being able to be the director, right? So like I can look at it, I can visualize it, I can conceptualize it and say, this is how I want it to sound. I want it to sound aggressive. I want it to sound like a radio signal. I want it to sound sad. I want it to sound like this and this and this. And I can mold these tools into a piece of art that really projects the message and the concept and the theme. So first thing is I want you to listen to this small section of a song that I wrote that has to do with what we were just previously talking about, and that is how art is even in pain management through using devices and visualizing that data. So experiencing that there are certain apps that I gravitate towards using because visually it's more appealing and easier to understand what it is that I'm dealing with. So then taking all that and forming that into a song. And then the next thing I'll do is just give you a quick little example of how I use AI to develop some of these ideas.
Pathogens in the air, while the brass at and they see without a single fucking care. Unexploded ordnance, heavy metals in the dust, radiation cooking us, betrayal of the trust. This ain't what we signed for, we didn't ask for this. To come home and die slowly in the dark abyss. Chemicals in the eyes, skin absorbing the hate. Inflammation is the jailer and pain is the gate. Now stop. I hear the whispers in the back of the room. Stop being the victim, Timmy, stop singing the gloom. Shut the fuck up, let me teach you the difference, son. Between a mindset of weakness and the damage from a gun. Victimization is the event, the facts on the sheet. It's the agency stolen while I was walking the beat. I didn't choose the vaccine that messed up the vein. I didn't choose the childhood or the generational pain. I didn't choose the burn pit or the data deployment. I didn't choose to be a pawn for corporate enjoyment. So don't talk to me about choices from your ivory tower. When the system strip my gear and strip my power. When the vet speaks up, it ain't a plea for a crush. It's a demand for acknowledgement. Is it asking too much? But y'all skip the validation, jump straight to the shame, calling us weak for simply naming the game. It's class warfare, homie. The rich who for their rights. The poor start to go for me and screaming to the night. My story is my power, my truth is my shield. I ain't hiding the scars that the battlefield revealed. You see me at the grocery store, you think he looks fine. You don't see the threat scan running through my mind. Heart rate 120, scanning every exit door. While I'm buying fucking milk, I'm refighting the war. Functional ain't cured, get that shit through your head. I'm working 10 times harder just to not wind up dead. If a man loses a leg, you give him carbon fiber toes. Before the invisible wound, nobody fucking knows. I had to build my own prosthetic, invisible to the eye. It's the discipline to die, just to stay alive. It's the cold shower shock to reset the nervous system. It's the data on the watch, catching symptoms when I miss them. It's the linen on my back, the herbs in the jar. guitar is the massage gun humming while I sit in the car. But here's the cruel joke, the invisible tax I pay out of pocket just to keep the demons off my backs. The VA gives me pills to make the symptoms get worse, while I pay for the organic food to lift the curse. A financial sinkhole, a life sentence, a cost, paying for the sanity that the melody lost. So what's the solution? How do we win the fight? We turn on the floodlights and we banish the night. To every veteran listening, hear what I say. You are the architect, you build the way, but you gotta be the lawyer, the accountant, the spy, because the system's gonna wait for you to curl up and die. Document the tools, take a picture of the ice, save the receipt for the supplements, pay the price, record the sleep data, log the food on the plate, take a picture of your stool, yeah, document the hate, show them the work, show them the strain, show them the hours spent managing the pain, build a dossier so thick they can't look away, make the invisible visible, make them pay, they say we look fine, where is the proof? We tearing down the walls and we tearing off the roof. I'm done asking for permission, I'm done asking please. I'm standing on my feet, I'm off of my knees. I'm off of my knees. I'm off of my knees.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that last section of the song. And if you're interested, you can hop over to my YouTube or my Suno account. Everything is in the links. And the albums are listed as playlist on this YouTube channel. And you can head over there. Now, the next thing I'm going to share with you is a AI thread conversation to just show you what some of the feedback is with some of the conversations I've had.
You're moving into a powerful realm where your personal narrative becomes a universal artistic statement. This gallery guide will distill your complex arguments into an easily digestible, visually impactful format, perfect for explaining your war chest to an audience. Part 1. The Visual Summary. The Art of Biological Sovereignty. This is a conceptual infographic using art metaphors to explain your fight. Imagine this as a sleek, one-page document you might hand out at a presentation. Infographic title: The Art of Biological Sovereignty. My War Chest for Life. Center image: a split portrait. One side is a grayscale, slightly blurred image of a person appearing unwell, with faint lines of decay. The other side is a vibrant, clear, healthy-looking portrait of the same person, with subtle glowing lines indicating vitality. Left side, grayscale, the path of neglect. Aesthetics of decay, the weathered soldier. Forced aesthetic of systemic neglect. Invisible toxins, chemical bullet wounds, toxins, inflammation, unseen but felt. Economic trap, forced into low-fidelity inputs, leading to accelerated biological aging. The tragic portrait, the accepted narrative of gradual decline and early natural death. Right side, vibrant, the art of restoration. Biological sovereignty, the right to maintain one's own vibrant, healthy canvas. Avant-garde healing, embracing functional medicine as a new, necessary realism. Preservation capital, disability as biological reparations for restorative inputs. The masterpiece in progress, an active, high-cost investment in sustained vitality. Below the split portrait, a series of icons and brief descriptions, like sections in a gallery. The Gallery of the Invisible, my war chest in detail. Icon 1, a magnifying glass over a painting. The manifesto, the artist's statement. The why, concept. This defines the intent that clean, non-inflammatory biology is a fundamental right, not a luxury. It reframes wellness as a matter of biological justice, rejecting the passive acceptance of decay. Icon 2, a shield, the statement of sustainability. The defensive critique, the defense. Concept. This defends against misinterpretation. It asserts that outward stability is a meticulously managed state, not an inherent cure. My health is a temporary peak, bought daily with conscious effort and financial investment, like a delicate artwork maintained in a climate-controlled environment. Icon 3, a smartwatch with a heartbeat line. The daily data log. Biological realism, the current status. Concept. This is the live, biometric feed from the canvas itself. My smartwatch data, HRV, sleep, stress, provides an infrared scan of my internal landscape, showing the hidden turmoil and the constant battle waged beneath the surface. It is the raw, unedited footage of my fight. Icon 4, a beaker or test tube. The lab results, the chemical analysis, the hard evidence, concept. This is the scientific backbone. Epigenetic tests reveal the accelerated aging of my cells. Heavy metal and gut biome analyses expose the precise chemical vandalism from service, proving the physical roots of the unseen wounds and guiding targeted restoration. Bottom text/signature. My body is the most important work of art I will ever own. Its restoration is not a luxury. It is an act of defiance, demanding the biological sovereignty I am owed. Your name, lead conservator of my own life. Part 2, the gallery guide, presenting your war chest. This is the script that accompanies the visual summary. Imagine handing out the infographic, then walking the audience through it. Hold up or display the visual summary infographic. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond the words, beyond the data, there is a profound story playing out on a canvas, the canvas of the human body. And it's a story I believe we are all, in some way, living. I've learned to see my life and the lives of my fellow veterans not just as a medical case, but as a piece of art. A piece of art that was profoundly altered by service and then further degraded by a system that prioritizes palliative care over proactive preservation. Look at this image, gesture to the split portrait on the infographic. On one side, you see the aesthetics of decay, the accepted, almost expected, slow deterioration. On the other, the art of restoration, the vibrant potential that is currently considered a luxury. This is the fundamental conflict I am presenting. To fight for that vibrant potential, I've had to assemble what I call my war chest. Think of it as my gallery of the invisible, a collection of exhibits designed to illuminate the unseen battles and the profound injustices. Point to each section on the infographic as you speak. First, we have the manifesto, my artist statement. This isn't just about feeling better. It's about a fundamental right. It's the declaration that clean, non-inflammatory fuel for my body is as essential as oxygen, not a privileged choice. It's the why behind every expensive organic meal, every specialized supplement. Next, the statement of sustainability, my defensive critique. This is where I confront the dangerous assumption that if I look okay on the outside, I'm cured. My health is a meticulously managed, high-cost operation. Imagine a priceless artwork requiring constant temperature, humidity, and expert care. If you remove that care, the art degrades. My body is no different. My stability is not a passive state. It is a monument to active daily struggle. Then, we enter the daily data log, my biological realism. This is the living, breathing evidence. My smartwatch isn't a gadget. It's my personal biometric microscope. It captures the hidden storms, the HRV crashes, the sleep disruptions, the constant fight or flight signals. This data transforms my subjective experience into undeniable, objective fact. It's the constant infrared scan of my inner landscape, revealing the invisible tension beneath the surface. And finally, the lab results, the chemical analysis. This is the scientific backbone. These aren't vague diagnoses. They are precise measurements of the chemical vandalism left by war. Heavy metals, epigenetic age markers, gut biome imbalances. These are the quantifiable bullets still lodged in my system. They are the fingerprints of the invisible injuries, guiding the targeted restoration that standard medicine so often overlooks. Return to direct audience gaze. I have done the work. I have the information. I have the evidence. But in a society that treats medical cannabis as a luxury tax and expects me to make it work on low-grade inputs because that's what they did, I am left in a cruel paradox. My body, my life, is the most important work of art I will ever own. It was vandalized by war, by toxins, and by neglect. To restore it is not a luxury. It is an act of biological justice. It is a demand for the biological sovereignty I am owed. I stand before you today not as a victim, but as the lead conservator of my own life, presenting the blueprint for a future where every veteran has the right to preserve their own masterpiece. How do you feel about this artistic framing? Does it capture the emotional and intellectual depth you intended?
This is another poem that I have in my book that I'm going to share with you. And also it shows the AI illustration and a picture of the art acrylic painting interpretation of the AI image. And this I used paint marker and acrylic, and then sealed it with tarnish and signed it. The title is Tinnitus is Us, a hollow chime, a constant drone, a phantom symphony forever blown. Earplugs dysfunction, a slip, and with each shot, a sonic whip. Pain explodes, of white hot sear. Tears I hide, lest pity smear. In darkness curled, a soldier's shame, whispering strength, my whispered name. Years unwind, the ringing stays, a mocking echo through the days. Silence craved, a cruelest jest, where peace should be, the ding persists. Sound waves fight, a losing war. Headphones hum, but can't restore. The quiet mind, the tranquil space, haunted by echoes, a relentless chase. Close to the edge, temptations call, for solace sought, a silent thrall. But love stands firm, a tethered light. Children's eyes are a guiding sight. Acceptance dawns, a muted plea, the ringing tide, a part of me. Suck it up and march ahead for those who wait for love unsaid. So soldier on with your head held high, through the shadows dance and echoes sigh. You are more than pain, you are more than the sound. In love and strength, courage found. Now again, that was a interpretation turn into a poem from having a conversation with AI about the moments of having tinnitus, when you have those moments where the ringing in your ears take over, and it's like sound waves fight a losing war, headphones hum but can't restore. So like, even though I use frequencies and music to drown out the ringing, it temporarily can change my focus in a different direction, but it's not healing or getting rid of the ringing in my ears. But love stands firm, a tethered light. Children's eyes are a guiding sight. That's an interpretation of sharing how, regardless of how much suffering you go through having the ringing in your ears, sometimes you have to look at your children or look at things that you love around you to change your focus on something that is worthwhile and give you direction to change your mind away from the pain. So, again, you can find many more poems like this and many more that you will hear in the coming episodes. But you can also go on the website and purchase a PDF digital copy or a hard copy or some of the individual poems on posters and merch. So I want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Please like and share so we can build this cultural influence and conversation. As a person who has been on both sides of most arguments, race, politics, religion, whatever the case may be, everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves a chance. And I truly believe that if we can make the basic necessities a obligation and a requirement, then we can truly, instead of labeling on either side as an extreme, to have a common ground. And our common ground is functional, nutritional life and productivity that helps relieve the pain and suffering that people are dealing with. But also, like I said, both sides, one side has to accept the fact that these people would be better people if they were eating better, if they were living better, they would make better choices instead of pointing the finger. But also, we have to understand that everybody deserves a chance, and we can't write each other off and cut each other off and label each other, divide each other, because we can build a better society on commonality. And the other side has to realize that is angry and protesting and whatever the case may be, that sometimes your actions feed the destruction. It feeds the illness. And to expose yourself to chemicals, to expose yourself to the stuff that people experience in war is not going to benefit you, and it's not going to benefit them, right? the main focus, the strongest form of resistance and strength and protest is your daily choice. How you live your life, choose to live your life, and how you spend your money. I don't have time to go out and protest because my strongest actionable choice is to manage my health, right? To stay calm, to make sense, to breathe, to meditate, to understand, to cook, to eat, to feed, to take care of my kids, to provide, to teach, to do all these things, list of things. I don't have time for nonsense. I don't have time to protest. I don't have time to involve myself in other people's lives, but I do know that my money provides support to those who support me. So if I'm spending my money on unhealthy things and consuming these unhealthy things, then I'm only feeding the system that continues to divide and destroy. Your most important choice and what you should be fighting for is the preservation and the ability to focus on finding yourself, loving yourself, and healing yourself, managing yourself, coping with yourself so that you can build confidence, so that you can build a sense of purpose and a sense of self. And you can't do that when you're in the middle of chaos and war. Why bring that war to our streets? I can understand fighting certain things, but you can't physically, individually destroy and dismantle a system that is fueled by profits, by separation. These true people who are behind actual products and services and things that are dividing and harming our society are not in your face. They are hiding in gated communities and on yachts and all these places that you are not protesting at, places that you aren't allowed to go to because you would be stopped by security. And that doesn't matter because whether you were to fight face to face is still not going to stop the system from moving forward. If someone dies, they replace it. And this factory continues to produce and the system continues to go. The best choice that you can do is go home, meditate, to read, to learn, to watch, to practice. And that, I know sometimes I can go down a rabbit hole, and I extended this another whole 10 minutes, but these are the conversations I want to have in the further episodes. So if you're interested and you want to have a conversation, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not a veteran. The seat is open to anybody, right? Because again, we are all veterans because we are all fighting a domestic internal war on many different levels. So thank you for coming to the Unfiltered Uniform, where we burn the standards, we throw the expectations out the window, and we just have a raw conversation about deeper things, deeper understanding. So I will leave you with this song that relates to this whole episode and art, and I hope you enjoy it. And again, if you like the music, you can check it out on the YouTube playlist, the album. I have 2 albums, just to be clear. One is about raging against the machine and the experiences and the trauma. And then another album is for refocusing, calmness, and building and fixing and offering solutions and guidance and all of that. So I'll leave you with this positive song, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you guys tune in for the next episode. I'm working on it. I'm only one person. I'm trying my best, and it's hard, but I'm not going to let that stop me.
I'm dipping the brush in the cobalt, the depth of the calm, lowering the heart rate, applying the mental balm. The infantryman is shouting, but the blue is the filter, straightening the mind when the world is out of kilter. Then I add the silver, the mirror of the moon. Processing the trauma, humming a different tune. It's the armor of the past, but it's polished and it's sleek, helping me find the words that I'm too tired to speak. I'm reflecting the fire, but I ain't getting burned. Using the silver for the lessons that I've learned. Art therapy without the green, that's a canvas with no soul. I need the chemical firewall just to feel whole. Blue for the clarity, silver for the flow, gold for the worth that the system didn't know. It's more than just a hobby, it's a state of the heart. The green key is how I even start the art. It's more than just a hobby, it's a state. Yeah. Muffling the noise, the tactical is silenced. Down-regulating the fear and the inner violence. The amygdala is quiet, the alarm bell is gone. The artist is awake, moving into the dawn. It's lateral thinking, connecting the dots. Divergent ideas in the creative spots. You think I'm on the go? Nah, I'm on the transmission. Sending out a message with a high vibe mission. Sensory enhancement, feeling the paint's grit. Drowning in the present, I'm finally fit. The ram is wide open, your creativity is free. The green guard is the only way to be the real me. Now I reach for the gold. It's the weight of my worth, it's the sun in the room. I was raised in the struggle, but I'm destined to bloom. My ideas are valuable, my story is wealth. I'm painting my recovery, I'm painting my health. Neuroplasticity detected. We write in the SOP from survival mode to artistic sovereignty. I'm looking at the blue pie, the silver rim on the shelf. I'm building a temple to heal my inner self. As ZZ played is rising in the ghost of rhythmic case. Everything is tactical in the sacred space. Unfiltered and raw. At Basquiat I touch because the system gray was always too much. I'm transmitting the frequency, I'm sending a sign. The green and the gold are finally aligned. No more mental fatigue, no more infantry haze. We're living in the colors for the rest of our days. Art therapy without the green, that's a canvas with no soul. I heat the chemical firewall just to feel whole. Blue for the clarity, silver for the flow, gold for the worth that the system didn't know. It's more than just a hobby, it's a state of the heart. It's not about the high, it's about to see homeostasis achieved. Rest and digest. Cobalt blue heavy, gold silver flow. We saw the good, the bad, and the scars in between, leaving more than just a ghost in the giant machine. Financial freedom's the goal, but the heart is the base. Offering love and understanding to the whole human race. Unstructured, unbothered, we're shedding the skin. This ain't just a podcast, it's where you begin. Michael Vassalero, signing off the air. The uniform is off, but the spirit is there. Keep building, keep breaking, keep finding your way. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a beautiful day.